Many suggested to me reviewing this monitor, and I can see why. It ticks many boxes, starting with its sub $200 price tag. Combine that with a 144Hz IPS panel, add a pinch of 1 millisecond response time marketing nonsense, and you basically have the perfect recipe for a potential bestseller. Well, MSI are clearly not the only ones knowing this recipe, so it really boils down to how the G241 performs. I'm especially interested in how what MSI have cooked compares to what Asus served us with their excellent VG249Q. I really like MSI's current design language. It's quite minimalist, mainly using black plastic with different structures. As a little eye-catcher, they've also added a red joystick on the backside of the monitor. This is the same design they've approached with their G24C4 as well, which pretty much can be seen as the curved VA panel counterpart of the G241. And the G241 also comes with a monitor stand that is partially made from metal. While the coated metal legs feel premium, the top part's plastic is a bit sharp and reminds us that this is in fact a budget monitor. The overall build quality is good, though nothing special, but thanks to its solid stand the monitor doesn't wobble. Part of that surely comes down to the lack of adjustability. Tilt can be adjusted with no adjustability for swivel, pivot or height. The default height is pretty much spot on if you ask me, though more adjustability always is appreciated. All of that of course doesn't matter if you plan to use the VESA mount anyway. If you want to hear anything out of this monitor, you'd have to use headphones or external speakers, as it doesn't come with internal ones. Now let's check whether the picture quality of the G241 is any good. A close look at the panel shows clear text rendering and good sharpness. So everything is fine as we would expect from a good IPS panel. I didn't however expect such a high brightness. MSI rates this monitor with 250 candles per square meter, and we're almost getting 30% more. That's good news for anyone who likes to use their monitor in a bright room or crank up the brightness while gaming. However, the minimum brightness is high as well. 118 candles per square meter is just too much for using the monitor at night. That may be okay while playing a dark game, but opening up a wide Word document or such is not great. I wish MSI would give us more adjustment range, especially as every 3 to 4 brightness steps are basically the same. Meaning the brightness is adjustable from 0 to 100, but for instance 0 gives us just the same brightness as 1, 2 and 3. In this fashion, every setting from 11 to 14 leads to 140 candles per square meter, which is the brightness I use for basically all measurements. The corresponding black level is pretty low, leading to a high contrast ratio of almost 1500 to 1, which is excellent for an IPS monitor. Please mind that I just upgraded to a more precise colorimeter, and for the sake of comparison, I measured about 1200 to 1 with my old device. This is the highest contrast I've gotten from an IPS panel so far, and it's even in arm's reach of lower tier VA monitors like the MSI G24C4 for instance. Therefore, the G241 handles dark scenes in videos or movies pretty well, and I enjoyed it quite a bit more for that purpose than I would have thought. This obviously is not pitch black OLED level performance, but basically as good as it gets for a standard IPS monitor. And I was lucky enough to receive a unit with good backlight uniformity as well, but as we all know, this can vary highly between different copies of the same monitor. Both the realistic and the exaggerated exposure look even better than the Asus VG249Q, which already was quite good in that regard. My unit also is pretty uniform when displaying a wide text picture. I measured an average brightness deviation below 7%. The darkest spot can be found in the bottom left corner of the screen, being roughly 12% darker than in the middle. This is not really perceivable, which is good for things like photo editing. Speaking of photo editing, the color accuracy after calibration and profiling is top notch. I've linked my ICC profile in the description down below if you'd like to use that. These are the corresponding OSD tweaks, just leave everything else at its default value. I recently did a video checking which levels of accuracy we can expect when using someone else's ICC profile, and I link that down below as well. Now, gradients are rendered smoothly, so I'd say this is either a true 8-bit panel or at least a well-made 6-bit plus FRC one. When it comes to gamut coverage, the G241 offers the full sRGB experience and even respectable coverages of the larger professional color spaces. This is plenty for hobby editors, and I would even consider that good enough for more ambitious color work. But as the saying goes, with great color volume comes great oversaturation. Well, that might not be a saying yet, but with a gamut volume that is 35% larger than that of sRGB, we get the usual oversaturation when not using an ICC profile. The same applies to applications that don't support color management. I personally don't find that little saturation boost too bothersome. When it comes to gaming, the oversaturation doesn't really matter anyway and can sometimes even look pleasing. Now, also pleasing is that the G241 comes with a refresh rate of 144 Hz. This is by no means something special anymore, but it's pretty great that this is more or less the standard these days when it comes to gaming monitors even below $200. I guess I don't have to tell anyone about the benefits of 144 Hz over 60 Hz anymore. Combine that with adaptive sync down to 48 Hz and we get a smooth and tear-free gaming experience. Both FreeSync and G-Sync are supported over DisplayPort, while FreeSync could also be used through one of the HDMI 1.4 ports. In that matter, FreeSync comes with a little FreeSync Premium badge, while the G-Sync compatibility wasn't officially certified by NVIDIA, meaning G-Sync has to be manually enabled in the NVIDIA control panel. However, G-Sync worked totally flawless for me and without any flickering issues like the MSI G241Q had below 100 FPS. Now, the refresh rate is only a part of the equation. If every enemy or flickshot would leave massive blurry trace behind, the gaming experience certainly wouldn't be great. So as usual, I've used Blurbuster's pursued camera technique to capture things like that. 3 different overdrive modes are available, but they're just mildly different. At 144 Hz, I'd recommend either fast or fastest. There is really no noteworthy difference between them. Since both also perform well at 120 Hz, they're both suitable for adaptive sync close to the maximum refresh rate. But only fast is performing consistently well down to 60 Hz, so fast is my all-around pick for the G241. This is what I've been using and I found it quite enjoyable for somewhat competitive games. The G241 is clearly not a top-notch super fast esports monitor, but no slouch either. We will compare the performance to other monitors in just a bit. There is also an anti-motion blur option that disables FreeSync, overdrive and brightness control. The latter leaves us with a quite dimmed down brightness setting. This mode obviously gets rid of motion blur quite effectively, but as there's no overdrive anymore, the ghosting gets pretty intense. I surely don't enjoy gaming when every object or enemy trails multiple sharp ghost images behind. So ghosting and the other drawbacks are just too much to recommend using this feature. Let's leave anti-motion blur aside and pull up some comparisons. Spec-wise, the Asus VG249Q GR is a very comparable monitor and the ghosting performance is extremely similar as well. However, they both can't keep up with the excellent performance of the VG249Q, which still is the best performing 24-inch I've tested so far. If you're very sensitive to ghosting, this will be a noticeable bump in performance, but the others deliver very good performance as well. The other obvious comparison is to the MSI G241Q, which is the curved VA panel counterpart of the G241. While the middle track performance of the G241Q is noticeably better, the dark tracks shows characteristic dark level smearing, which is very typical for VA panels. So I'd give the edge to the G241 for its consistent performance through different brightness levels. Now, should you put your cash towards the G241 or buy something else instead? Well, it depends. The G241 excels with very good color performance and an excellent contrast ratio combined with those great IPS viewing angles. If you plan to do some editing or other color sensitive content creation, this would be a great pick. The one minor downside for that matter is the high minimum brightness. When editing with a monitor that is too bright, you're at risk putting out content that will be too dark. Dark images are rendered nicely thanks to its deep black levels. So the G241 also is a solid pick for watching videos or movies. Though its VA panel counterpart, the G241Q, has the slight edge here. When it comes to gaming, the VA panel still suffers from some dark level smearing, making the G241 a better monitor if you're more into gaming than watching videos. For gaming, the G241 is a good choice as well, being roughly on par with the Asus VG249Q GR. If you want to spend a few dollars more, the Asus VG249Q still is superior when it comes to motion performance. It has less mirroring, which can be a noticeable improvement if you're sensitive to that. On top of that, the Asus comes with a fully adjustable stand. Now, the MSI G241 is a terrific choice for some use cases. This surely doesn't make a good clickbait title, but the G241 adds another great option with a slightly different feature set to the market. Thanks for watching and consider to subscribe.